It is Friday, so it is time for Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, taking your calls in our national town hall meeting. Senator, welcome.
Good to be with you, Tom.
It's great to have you here. Before we get started, I wanted to correct something I said last week and apologize to you for this. I will be very careful not to do this in the future. I quoted Antonin Scalia to you, saying essentially, where's the effect of I can do whatever I want as a Supreme Court justice? And it was an accurate quote, but what he was the context was wrong, and I didn't know that at the time. His context was he was making fun of a Supreme Court justice who would say such a thing rather than asserting it himself. So my apologies. But in any case, where are you? What's going on? And what are your thoughts on the state of politics
today?
I'm
in southern Vermont now. And obviously my thoughts, like almost everybody else's in the nation, is on the coming election. And its enormous importance to the future of our country. And Tom, one of the concerns that I have, and what drives me a little bit nuts, is how media covers politics in America, which makes it look more like an American Idol show or an amateur hour show and a singing show rather than a show looking at what the candidates stand for and how it's going to impact this nation for our kids and our grandchildren. So the debates are important, and obviously Obama did a lot better in the second debate than the first debate. But the truth is, what these guys stand for, what their policy positions are, what parties they come from, is far, far more important. And I hope that everybody understands that what we are seeing in America today is a major political party, the Republican Party, which has become a very right-wing party. And that is Mitt Romney's party, and he proudly accepted their nomination. This is a party which absolutely, and this is what the Paul Ryan budget is about, and Ryan is obviously Romney's vice presidential nominee. What the Ryan budget is about are tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country and massive cuts in Medicare that is transforming our Medicare system away from what it is right now into a voucher system, horrendous cuts in Medicaid such that 14 million Americans would be cut off of Medicaid over the next decade because they're cutting $770 billion. Now you tell me what happens to a working person today, maybe a mom with a couple of kids who's now on Medicaid, and when she's cut off, what happens to her? Where does she get her health care? These guys want to abolish and terminate the Affordable Care Act, which was going to expand health care to another 30 million Americans. These guys want to throw not only adults off of Medicaid, but children as well, about 1.7 million kids, if the Ryan plan were to become law, at a time when so many of our young people can't afford college or are graduating deeply in debt from college. They want to cut Pell Grants to about 1 million lower-income students by a cut of some $200 billion. They want to cut 2 million kids off of the Head Start program. So what the Republican Party is about, and I wish the media would focus on it, it really is not complicated. This is a party which now stands with the wealthiest people in this country, people who are doing phenomenally well, people who, as Warren Buffett reminds us, are paying a very low effective tax rate, which is what Romney's tax rates are about, because all of the loopholes and tax breaks they receive today. And this is a party that wants to give these people even more tax breaks, despite the growing wealth and income inequality in America. And then, in order to balance the budget, they want to go after Social Security. They want to go after disabled veterans, cutting benefits. They want to go after nutrition programs. They want to go after health care programs. They want to go after educational programs. And we as a nation have got to say, no, that is not what America is about. We're not going to make the wealthiest people wealthier and really stick it to tens of millions of our neighbors who are struggling to keep their heads above economically. Now, have the Democrats, and I know there's a lot of disappointment out there, because people say, well, where are the Democrats? Have they been as strong and tough as they should be? And the answer is, no, they have not. And let me, as an longest-serving independent congressional history, make that clear. They have not. But I think people with maturity understand that Obama is the much preferred candidate in this election. And the day after the election, our job is to put as much pressure through a strong grassroots movement on the president to say, Mr. President, stand with the working families of this country.
Yep.
Be prepared to take on Wall Street and the bankers there who have caused so much pain in this country. Be prepared to fight for new trade policies which will prevent corporations from shutting down plants in America and moving to China and other countries. Be prepared to help us rebuild the infrastructure and transform our energy system, and in doing that, create millions of decent-paying jobs. Because while we do have to deal with the deficit in a way, in my view, that is fair, we also have to create millions and millions of jobs to address the unemployment problem in America today, which is not at 7.8%, but is closer to 15% if you include those people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time. So what we want to do, I think, is in this election, in my view, and I'm working very hard on this, is to defeat right-wing extremism and at the same time move forward to demand that the Democratic Party be more vigorous in standing up for working families.
Yeah. And what are you seeing on the ground? I mean, you're out there right now in Vermont. I mean, you're out there talking to people. There's all this kerfuffle about all these different topics that are being debated in the presidential debates and things. What do you think it all boils down to?
I don't know that I have anything profound to tell you, Tom, that your listeners haven't heard elsewhere. It's going to be a close election. That's what I know in Vermont, unless I'm very mistaken. Obama is going to do very, very well. I am 10 minutes away right now as I speak to you from New Hampshire, and that state is up in the air. There are a lot of states, Virginia, Iowa, North Carolina, Ohio, where these elections are very, very close. Okay. And I hope that all Americans, and especially the people in the so-called battleground states, understand that, Obama is not a perfect candidate, and the last 4 years have been far from perfect. But given the enormous differences between the Republicans and Democrats and Romney and the president, there is no question that we have got to reelect the president with as big a vote as we possibly can. But this is going to be a very, very, very tough election and very tight election. Yeah. And I hope that people do everything they can to get their friends and family out to the polling booths in many states, as you know. We have early voting. People can vote on Monday. And I hope that they do.
Yeah, and make sure that if you show up in person, you can find out if one of these companies that the Republicans have hired that are changing Democrats' addresses and things so their votes get bounced. Make sure that you're actually registered the way that you're supposed to be registered.
Well, one of the really shameful. Honest people can hold different points of views. In a democracy, that's what happens, and I respect that. But that you have in a number of different ways Republican governors, legislators, and operatives literally trying to suppress the vote. That is vulgar. That is so anti-American that I don't know where to begin. We have people in this country who have fought and died to defend the American Constitution and our way of life, and that you have Republican operatives trying to keep people from being able to cast their ballots is beyond disgusting.
Well said. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. He will be taking your calls next in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, right here on the Thom Hartmann Program. 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
You can check out Senator Sanders' website, by the way, at sanders.senate.gov. Ours is thomhartmann.com. You can drop into our free live chat room and say hi. We'll be back with more with Bernie right after this. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Senator Sanders on the line with us. And Bernie, you're still here, right?
I'm right here.
Okay, let's take some calls here. Daryl, watching Free Speech TV in Morley, Michigan. Daryl, you're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Hartmann?
Yes, sir. You are on the air, Daryl.
Okay. I have heard it on CNN TV at least 3 or 4 times. Mr. Romney saying, I'm going to be the next president. I will be the next president. I know I'm going to be the next president. As far as I'm concerned, it's already bought and paid for.
Okay.
Well, Darrell, it may be bought and paid for, but there is certainly not for sure that Mr. Romney, no matter what he may say, it's certainly not for sure that he will be the next president. If I were a betting guy, I think that Obama will, in fact, get reelected by a small margin, but that he will get reelected. But the point is, nobody knows what's going to happen when they count the votes on Election Day. And our job is to make sure that whatever Mr. Romney and his friends may be saying, and maybe they're getting a little cocky, our job is to bring out as large a vote as we possibly can of working people who understand that the future of this country is not giving tax breaks to people who don't need it and then cutting the programs that people do need. That's not the future of this country. I mean, the future of this country, and one point that I want to make, Tom, it's not just about Romney and Obama. It really is about Congress as well. And people sometimes lose track of the fact that the most important vote that a senator or a member of the House casts is not on this or that piece of legislation, but it's on which party controls the House or the Senate and really determines the agenda. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that if the Republicans gain control of the United States Senate, you are going to have some incredibly reactionary chairmen of major committees whose job it will be is to make the rich richer at the expense of everybody else. So it's not just the race for the presidency. It is a race to see which party controls the House of Representatives and the Senate. And I hope people keep that in mind when they cast those votes.
Yeah, and in a very real way, also, the Supreme Court hangs in the balance.
Absolutely.
We have 3 members who are over 75, I believe, and 4 who are over 70.
And it's the United States Senate that will ultimately vote for those Supreme Court nominees. So please, in your deliberations out there, do not forget about the Senate and in the House. And again, understand that it's not just the candidates who are running. That's obviously very important. But it is which party gains or retains control over the Senate and the House. And I can tell you just one example of many, that if the Republicans were to gain control of the U.S. Senate, the Environmental Committee on which I sit, which has oversight for global warming, the new chairman of the Environmental Committee, as best as I can understand, would be Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma. And Jim believes that global warming is a hoax. It's a hoax. And I don't think those are the kinds of chairmen you want on major committees.
That's certainly not the kind I want. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting. We'll be right back. It's 19 minutes past the hour.
We have not come thus far without a struggle, and I assure you that we cannot go further without a struggle.
There you go. It's a struggle. Welcome back. And one of the great people out there fighting the great fight every day, Senator Bernie Sanders, taking your calls right now in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie. Dave in Maryville, Indiana. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes. Good morning, Senator Sanders and Tom. I was wondering, you keep hearing the Republicans all the time saying this is the worst recovery, from a recession that we've ever had. And why don't the Democrats ever explain? I don't hear the president, anybody else explain the reason why. Because in past recessions, most of what we buy was made in the United States. So the money stayed in this country, creating more jobs. Now most of the things we buy is made in China, so the money is going over to China, creating jobs in China.
Well, Dave, that's, I think, a very important point to make. I think in defense of the president here, sometimes with media, it is very hard to make a case in a 6-second soundbite, which is often what you see on TV. But I think let's do this, and let's back up 4 years ago and remember exactly where we were at this particular moment. Remember that. And I sometimes get disturbed that I think people forget it. They have a little bit of amnesia here. And that is, in terms of the recession, we were at a moment in history where we were hemorrhaging 700,000 jobs a month. That is an unbelievable number. Unbelievable number. 4 years ago, people were beginning the process of losing their homes. The stock market was plummeting. People were losing their life savings. So you had massive unemployment. You had people losing their homes and their life savings. And on top of all of that, because of the deregulation of Wall Street, something which I very strongly opposed, the crooks on Wall Street had driven us into a position where not only the American financial system, but the world financial system stood on the verge of collapse, such that you could put your plastic card into an ATM machine and you might not get any money out because the system would be completely collapsing. That is where we were. Are we in a great spot now? No. Everybody knows that. Unemployment is much too high. Median family income has gone down. Too many people still lack health insurance. Too many of our people are still working 2 or 3 jobs. Everybody understands that. We don't need Mr. Romney's lecture to tell us that the economy is in rough shape. But we do need Mr. Romney to understand how we got into this position right now, and the fact that while we're not creating as many jobs as we would like, it's a lot better to create 100,000 jobs a month, not a great job performance. It's a lot better to do that than to lose 700,000 or 800,000 jobs a month. And it's also important to know that after all is said and done, the Romney economic plan is exactly what the plan of George W. Bush was about. And that is more tax breaks for the rich, more unfettered free trade, which is Dave's point. I think the point that Dave is making is that right now, as a result of our disastrous trade policies, when we go out and buy products, we are not necessarily putting fellow Americans back to work, certainly in the manufacturing sector, because everything being equal, those products come from China or someplace else. And that's because we passed these disastrous trade agreements. And I got to say, Romney wants us to accelerate that process, make it easier for companies to shut down in America and invest in China. That is exactly the wrong direction. And last but not least, Romney is a big proponent of more deregulation, which seems to me to be absolutely insane when you talk about Wall Street, because it was the deregulation of Wall Street, the fact that Congress allowed a situation, against my vote, very strong opposition, to see investor banks merge with commercial banks, merge with insurance companies, and that is the kind of deregulation that Mr. Romney wants. So I think you're looking at a situation where Romney will take us economically back to Bush and those policies which led us to where we are right now.
Larry in Canton, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Larry?
That's you, Larry. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah. I'm sorry. As a left of liberal, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out why this election is so close. But I'd like to proffer something here, and it has to do with the tax the rich mantra. A lot of middle-class people who are working more than one job, they equate success to wealth and riches. And maybe in the back of their minds, they're saying to themselves, why should I work so hard? Why should I work so hard to attain success when the government is just going to take more and take more, not realizing that they are not in the position with wealth and riches. And that is really my main point. I'm just wondering if that could be one of the small reasons.
Yes. Larry, I think that's a good point. And, in my view, if we're going to deal with the deficit in a serious and fair way, You don't do it on the backs of the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor. You do, in fact, ask the wealthiest people in this country to start paying their fair share of taxes. Now, your point is that there are a lot of people who think, they're going to be going after me. But that's really not the case. I think in terms of, and we have to do a better job in making that clear. For example, Romney wants to extend Bush's tax breaks for all people, including people making $250,000 a year. Meanwhile, he wants to transform Medicare and make devastating cuts to Medicaid. And what the American people have got to understand, if we are going to get out of this deficit situation, which we should, we are going to need more revenue. And poll after poll, I should say, Larry, makes it clear that the American people do believe that millionaires and billionaires who today are doing phenomenally well, whose effective tax rate is quite low from an historical perspective, should be asked to pay their fair share so we don't have to cut Medicaid or transform Medicare into a voucher program or cut Social Security or cut veterans programs. People understand that. But you are right in saying the Republicans have done a pretty good job in making the average American feel that if you cut taxes...
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
Sorry, Bernie. Finish your thought.
That's about it.
Okay. We'll be right back with more of Senator Sanders right after this. Carol in Apache Junction, Arizona. You are on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. Most everybody's talking about the middle class, and there's no mention of the poor class. I was grateful you did recently. We're out here and we vote too, and I guarantee you all my Social Security check goes into the community. The last 2 winters, I've been fortunate enough to benefit from LIHEAP. I believe that's the Low Income Household Energy Assistance Program.
Yep.
I was told there was no money for it this year, and I suspect that since the monetary matters originate in the House, that I have the Republicans to thank for not having that funding this year.
Well, Carol, thank you very much for asking that question. In my state of Vermont, it gets pretty cold in the wintertime, so LIHEAP is a very important program for Vermont. And I'm happy to tell you that a few years ago I led the effort to double LIHEAP funding from $2.5 to about $5 billion. But in the last few years, that has been chipped away and chipped away. So the issue is not that there will be zero funding for LIHEAP. That is not the case, Carol. The issue is how much funding there will be. And there is no question that many of our Republican friends, but I have to tell you some Democrats as well, are prepared to cut LIHEAP. So we are going to do, as Vermont's senator, I can assure you that I am going to do everything that I can to make sure that nobody in America goes cold this winter. That's not what our country is about. Most of the people who get LIHEAP are seniors, or they are children. They are families with young kids. So we're going to do our best to make sure that LIHEAP is adequately funded. But it is not true to suggest that there would be zero funding. We doubled funding a few years ago. It has been chipped away. We have to make sure that funding is adequate to protect all people throughout this country this coming winter.
Vincent in Newmarket, Maryland. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. Vincent?
Hi, Senator Sanders. My name's Vincent. I'm from Newmarket. Thank you for your service, and I'd like to thank also Senator Todd for his courage and Senator Frank for his consistency, and my Senator Mikulski for just being her. My question is, do you think that we will ever get back to Glass-Steagall? Do you ever think we'll be able to return banking back to what it should be, and that the financial sector I know the term had enough is not appropriate here, but to return the financial sector to some sort of normalcy instead of continuing to prey upon us. And my other question was, how many senators do we need to have a filibuster-proof Senate? Thank you.
Okay. All right, Vincent, thank you very much for asking two excellent questions. One is more policy, and one is kind of more process and political. In terms of Wall Street, you ask, is there a chance that we can restore the regulation that we used to have? Before, by the way, Vincent, listen to this. Wall Street spent $5 billion over a 10-year period on Republicans and Democrats in order to get deregulated. And I remember that very well because I was a member of the Financial Services Committee. I remember all the fights that I had with Alan Greenspan and others who were telling us just how great it would be if we just deregulated our friends on Wall Street and allowed them to become bigger and bigger and bigger. The answer as to whether we go back to Glass-Steagall, something that I support, although I would go further, has everything to do with this election and politics in general. Certainly, if Mr. Romney is president, you have heard him talk about deregulation, deregulation, deregulation. That is not going to happen. They will move in the opposite direction. Hopefully, if Obama is reelected, hopefully we can get enough support to say we never want to be in a position again where a handful of huge financial institutions are able to bring this economy to their knees because of their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior. What I would tell you, Vincent, is I would really go further. And ironically, there are some conservative economists who agree with me. And that is when you have today 6 of the largest financial institutions in this country having assets equivalent to $9 trillion, 2/3 of the GDP of this country, that is a recipe for too big to fail once again. And in my view, we've got to break these huge financial institutions up. And we do have to return to a situation where banks actually lent money out to homeowners and small businesses and medium-sized businesses, i.e., worked with the productive economy to help us create jobs rather than maintaining the world's largest gambling casino, which is what Wall Street is today. In terms of your question regarding the filibuster, that is an issue that a number of us in the Senate are keenly concerned about. We think it is absurd that the Republicans have been more obstructionist than at any time in modern American history, where they are doing everything they can to force 60 votes on virtually every important piece of legislation. So some of us are looking at a variety of ways for filibuster reform so that while the minority continues to have important roles to play, it is not the minority that runs the Senate, but the majority.
Carson in Vienna, Virginia. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
All right, thanks. All right, bye.
Carson?
Hey, how you doing? Good to talk to you, Senator Sanders. My question really resides around kind of the campaign and Citizens United. I think it's pretty bipartisan that most people feel that there's way too much money in this election cycle as a result of Citizens United. So my question is, how come the Democrats and Obama in particular not campaigning more on what he would do or attempt to do to try and either overturn or blunt Citizens United? To me, it seems like a no-brainer platform to run on.
Carson, I agree with you. I think you make an excellent point. As somebody who has introduced a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, I think you're quite right. I don't think this is just a Democratic issue. I think you got a lot of Republicans out there who are saying, is American democracy really about one family, such as the Koch brothers, spending $400 million in this election? Is democracy about Sheldon Adelson, one person spending $100 million? Is that really what people fought and died for? So I think you do have a lot of bipartisan support that says, let us overturn Citizens United. Now, some of Obama's people were talking about the fact that the president was thinking about this, but I absolutely agree with you. I think the president should be absolutely forthright and say that if reelected, he will work with Congress and work with the states. We now have 9 states on record saying that they want Citizens United overturned, because no matter what your political view is, I think most people do not believe that a handful of billionaires should be able to buy and sell politicians or buy and sell elections. So, Carson, I absolutely agree with you and believe the president should be much more forthright on that issue.
James in Bakersfield, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. James?
Hello?
Yes, sir. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, sir. You was talking about outsourcing. That is the biggest spending program that we have. It makes non-contributors out of contributors. And a guy a while ago talked about, it was just much of a stimulus program, was just much of a Chinese stimulus program, it was an American stimulus program.
James, is there a question in there?
The biggest food stamp program, as far as I'm concerned, is a business luncheon. That costs the taxpayers far more than food stamps.
Well, you make two good points, James. I think, and let me be clear, I am an independent. I'm the independent senator from Vermont. And on this issue of outsourcing and on this issue of trade, I have to tell you, it is not just the Republicans. It is all of the Republicans, but it is Democrats as well. Let us not forget that it was Bill Clinton who signed NAFTA against my strong opposition and the opposition of working people throughout the country. The result has been, in the last 10 years, we have lost something like 55,000 factories, millions of good-paying jobs, not all of it attributable to trade. There are other factors as well, but a lot of it attributable to trade. And I personally believe you're not going to see the middle class grow. We're not going to see decent-paying jobs in this country until we reestablish, once again, a strong manufacturing sector where we are buying products in our stores made in the USA. That has got to be the demand. So I think very much that we have to rethink this disastrous trade policy, which has been one of the reasons why we have seen the standard of living for working families in decline in recent years. James also makes the point that there are a lot of write-offs that many of our business friends have, including their fancy lunches and so forth, and he makes a good point on that as well.
We'll be back with more of Senator Sanders answering your questions in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, right after this, 45 minutes past the hour. Here on the Thom Hartmann Program, check out Senator Sanders' website at sanders.senate.gov. Ours is thomhartmann.com.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
More of Brunch with Bernie in just a moment. And welcome back. Tom in Plainwell, Michigan, watching on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Bernie. And Tom, I wanted to say thanks a lot for what you're doing for all of us Americans who are trying to figure out what the hell's going on around here. Anyway, I wanted to ask, is anybody looking into not only the Diebold voting machines, because I think they did the job in Florida in 2000. But what about Tag Romney now? He's bought another voting machine company, and I guess he's going to be putting them out there for all of us to use. Is anybody investigating this stuff?
Yeah, the answer, Tom, is yes. I think there are secretaries of state all over the country, and I know Thom Hartmann has written a whole lot about this, probably knows more about it than I do. But I can tell you that we have seen in a number of states growing concern about the fear that voting machines can be manipulated. And, my own view is I think of my Canadian neighbors. I live about an hour away from Canada. They count their votes very, very quickly and honestly and effectively, and they do it through the old-fashioned paper ballot. And so I'm kind of conservative on that issue, and I would prefer to see that. Tom, did you want to add anything on that?
No, I totally agree. Sue in Metamora, Ohio. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Thank you. I have a question is that on that fundraiser that he had in Florida, when he talked about the 47%, was that other clip about going to any incident, he would go to a war with Iran. that really bothers me.
Okay. Well, Sue, thanks for that comment. I think we all remember that was obviously a great embarrassment to the Romney campaign, the fact that video clip was made public, because I think it really exposed Mr. Romney for what he is and what he believes. You know, it's one thing to be out there in the public and giving a speech and be on TV, and you know what you want to say, you know, the sound bites that you want to make. But here he was in the privacy of, I gather, a private residence with his millionaire friends, and he told them from his heart what he believed. And what he believed that is that 47% of the population, that is people on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans, lower-income people who did not have enough money to pay taxes, these were people who were not taking personal responsibility for their lives. And I, you know, it just tells you what his attitude is to lower income and working families. And the other point that Sue makes is in terms about war. You know, we have just gone through the war in Iraq. We are winding down the war in Afghanistan. And I got to tell you, it's not just Mr. Romney. There seem to be a whole lot of folks out there, a lot of Republicans, maybe some Democrats, who think that, you know, we should be itching for another war. And I don't know if it's because so much money comes into campaigns from the military-industrial complex or whatever. But I think a war with Iran would be a disaster. We have to do everything we can to prevent them getting a nuclear weapon. But we could do it without going to war.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our national town hall meeting, the Brunch with Bernie program on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this. Lance in Loleta, California. Is that how you say it, Lance?
Yeah, I'm fine. How you doing, Tom?
You're on the air with Bernie.
Senator? Huh?
Hello?
I'm sorry?
Yes, you are, Lance.
Yeah, I'm a 78-year-old senior, and I've been wondering what the hell I can do to help. Even if it's put a bumper sticker on my car or something, anything. But I got an idea the other night. A song came to me. I wrote in 10 minutes. I put it on my YouTube site, called it Republican Party. And obviously it's a spoof, but it has some salient points. And one of the things in it, it poses a question, rhetorical as it is. I don't understand how a working class person, whatever gender, race, religion, whatever, can believe this man, Romney, and vote for him and all his fat cat cronies who just want to take the cream off the top and keep all the power there while keeping the middle class down and not even caring about people under that. And your views on that, sir?
Well, Lance, I agree with you, absolutely. Look, it shouldn't surprise us that dozens of billionaire families are contributing a whole lot of money into helping the Republicans and Romney during this campaign. Because Romney represents their interest. More tax breaks for billionaires, easing up of environmental regulations so that companies can make more money by polluting, deregulating Wall Street and other large corporate interests. I can understand that billionaires support that agenda and those candidates. But I agree with you, Lance. I do not understand how any working person could vote for a candidate who wants to move toward the privatization of Social Security, who wants to transform Medicare into a voucher program, who wants to make massive cuts in Medicaid and education and nutrition programs, all of which tens of millions of Americans absolutely depend upon. So for the billionaires out there, and all of those billionaires who are listening to this program, I can understand why you want to support Mr. Romney and the other Republican leaders. But for any working person to be voting for somebody who says, yeah, we need more unfettered free trade, make it easier for companies to ship your jobs to China. Yeah, make it harder for workers to form a union. Yeah, make it harder for low-income kids to be able to get nutrition programs. That I do not understand. And those people are simply voting against their own best interests, and I hope as few as possible will do that.
John in Folsom, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator, I wish there were more like you in Congress.
Thank you, John.
My point I'd like to make today is about the Democrats and how every election cycle we scurry together to get votes and get our people in office, where you got to hand it to the Republicans. They started grassroots movements back in the 80s during Ronald Reagan's administration. They loaded up school boards, city councils, county commissioners, city government, and that's who they draw from. That's where Paul Ryan came from. And I just think the Democrats, or what I would like to say is progressive thinking people, need to be more active all the time, 24/7, 365. And then we wouldn't have to scurry and sweat out these elections, because there's a lot more of us than there are of them.
John, I couldn't agree with you more, and thank you very, very much for that right-on statement. I think you hit the nail right on the head. What Republicans do understand, better than Democrats. Democrats spend a whole lot of money, run like crazy 2 months before an election. But what John is saying is Republicans are at it 365 days a year. And I'll tell you what else, what John didn't mention. What Republicans are doing is focusing a whole lot on the media. We are very lucky to have great talk show hosts like Thom Hartmann, Ed Schultz, and others. We have a lot. But the truth of the matter is, and I always forget this number, Tom, what is well over 90% of talk radio is dominated by extreme right wing. Is that right?
Yeah, or it could be even worse than that. If you look at actual number of programming hours, it's probably closer to 95%. Yes.
All right. And Democrats have got to be supportive of progressive radio. You know, why is it that Republicans have the Fox television network and Democrats haven't created anything? So I think John hits the nail right on the head. What politics is about is not just getting involved 2 months before an election. It means being involved in educating and organizing 365 days a year. And I'll tell you something else, which disturbs me. Democrats, to a significant degree, do not have a 50-state strategy. My fellow Vermonter, Howard Dean, who used to be the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, said Democrats should be competing in all 50 states. You may not win tomorrow, but you're never going to win unless you plant the flag, bring people together, start coming forward with good candidates, do grassroots organizing. Democrats have abdicated a large part of this country, and I think that that's wrong. So the main point that John is making is that politics is 24/7. It is 365 days a year. It means being on the school board. It means being on the city council. It means demanding that media present all sides of the story. That's what being a responsible citizen is about. And we are not doing that anywhere near the degree that we should.
Very well said. Bernie, we have just, 30 seconds? Just a few seconds left. Your final thoughts for the day?
All right, let me just take people back to a point I've made before. Pay attention, not only in the next couple of weeks, obviously, before the election, pay attention to what happens in Washington after the election. A lot of discussion on deficit reduction. There are virtually all Republicans and some Democrats who want to do deficit reduction by cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans' needs, etc. We must not allow them to get away with that. There are ways to do deficit reduction by asking the wealthy and large corporations to start paying their fair share of taxes and taking a hard look at military spending. We can do deficit reduction in a way that is fair, not attacking the most vulnerable.
Bernie, thanks so much for being with us again today.
Okay, Tom.